Hey there, ready to dive into something interesting? Today we're tackling the ever-evolving world of social media, specifically dissecting this idea that followers are dead. You provided us with this piece, Social Media Followers Are Dead. Here's the truth. And let me tell you, it's a thought-provoker. It got me thinking about how we used to chase those follower counts like crazy. Remember when hitting 1,000 followers felt like you'd made it?
Yeah, it's a common misconception that a huge follower count equals influence. The reality is, social media platforms, particularly giants like Facebook and Instagram, have totally revamped their algorithms.
Okay, so let's unpack this algorithm thing. For those of us who aren't coding whizzes, what does that even mean and how does it change things?
Well, think of the algorithm like a giant sorting hat for content. It decides what to show people, and in the early days, it was simple. Post something, and it had a good chance of appearing on people's feeds, especially if they followed you. Now, the algorithm prioritizes engagement.
So it's not enough to just get eyes on your post anymore.
Not even close. Likes, comments, shares. That's the magic formula now.
No.
When people interact with your content, the algorithm sees it as interesting and valuable and shows it to more people, even those who don't already follow you.
So having thousands of followers who just scroll by is basically meaningless.
Pretty much. The article uses this great analogy. Imagine you're at a party. You could stand in the corner and just observe everyone, but you wouldn't really be participating, would you? Engagement is like joining the conversation, mingling, sparking those connections.
That's a great analogy. It's not about being a wallflower in the digital world. It's about actively participating in the conversation.
Exactly. And that shift changes everything for content creators and brands. It's not about broadcasting to a passive audience anymore. It's about crafting content that resonates, encourages interaction, and sparks those valuable conversations.
That makes total sense. But it makes you wonder, if engagement is king, doesn't that make it even easier for like fake followers and bots
Yeah.
to, game the system?
Yeah, it's a huge concern. A lot of accounts try to cheat the system by buying followers
Hmm.
to create that illusion of popularity and influence. But the article had a good way of putting it. It's like inflating a pool float with hot air. It might look impressive at first, but it's not going to last.
So how can you tell the difference between real engagement and something that's been artificially inflated? A lot of people listening are probably wondering the same thing. How do you even know who to trust these days?
The article had some good tips, actually. It suggests looking past those follower counts at the quality of engagement an account gets. Are the comments thoughtful? Are people sharing the content and adding their own thoughts? Those are the signs of a genuinely engaged audience.
So it's less about how many followers you have and more about the quality of their interactions. Like that old saying, it's better to have a small circle of real friends than a room full of acquaintances.
Totally. And this actually makes things more fair for everyone. Smaller accounts with really engaged audiences can have a bigger impact than accounts with millions of followers who are just scrolling by. It's about building a community, a place where people feel heard.
Which brings us to another thing the article talked about, having good content. Seems like common sense, but it's easy to get caught up in chasing likes and followers. And forget that none of it matters if your content isn't good.
It's true, content is king. It's something you hear all the time, and for good reason. The article is right. Compelling, interesting content is non-negotiable. Think of it like you wouldn't serve a boring salad at a dinner party and expect people to rave about it, right?
No way. You don't want to serve something that gets people talking, something
No,
memorable.
exactly. Same with social media. Your content is like your dish, and it needs to be something that grabs people. It has to speak to them. Look at how popular TikTok is. It's exploded because they prioritize content that's interesting from the start, no matter who made it.
It really is amazing. Good content always finds a way to stand out. So if we're not chasing followers and we know great content is essential, what's the end game? How do you define success in this new social media world?
It's all about building a community, just like the article said. You need to foster genuine connections with your audience. People who really connect with you and want to be a part of the conversation. People who bring their own unique perspectives, too.
It's like the difference between going to a concert and actually being in the band. One is passive, the other is all about working together to create something special.
Exactly. And building a community means going beyond those surface-level interactions. It's about creating a space where people feel heard and valued for their contributions, like they belong.
Okay, that makes sense, but it also brings up a big question. If we're ditching the old way of measuring success by follower count, what do we look at instead? How do you measure a thriving online community?
The article had a good point about this. Look at the meaningful interactions. Are people commenting in a way that starts discussions, sharing your content with their own take on it? Are they actually participating, adding to the community? Those are all good signs.
So it's less about broadcasting your message and more about creating a space for actual conversation and connection.
Exactly. And the best part, everyone benefits. We get to connect with a more invested audience as creators, and the audience feels like they're part of something meaningful. It's a win-win.
This deep dive has been so insightful. It really feels like social media is moving in a more authentic and engaging direction.
It's a great time to be a part of it. This deep dive has been a great reminder that at its heart, social media is about connecting with people. Focus on making great content that sparks conversations, building a strong community, and engaging with your audience in a meaningful way, and you'll be golden.
That's amazing advice to end on. And for those listening, think about the accounts you love engaging with most. It's probably not about how many followers they have, but the value they provide and the community they've built. That's what makes you feel like you're part of something bigger. That's the real power of social media, making those connections and having meaningful interactions. Until next time, keep those conversations going and keep those connections real.